Hey folks, Alan the Hot Rod Hippie here. Today's video is a product review of the new Milwaukee Cordless Heat Gun. So Milwaukee cut the cord on the heat gun. So how useful is that? Well, I'm going to tell you about that. But first let's get to the specifications. This is called the compact heat gun, and in a lot of ways it pretty much is. It's a 6.35 inch long heat gun from back to the end of the nozzle. The standard heat gun, the corded one that I use all the time, is 9.5 inches, so you saved over 3 inches switching over to this cordless Milwaukee. The Milwaukee weighs in at 1.7 pounds for the tool alone, and 1.5 pounds for the 5 amp hour battery that I have on it now, or that comes with the kit if you buy the kit version. So it weighs in just over 3 pounds. That is significantly heavier than the corded version that I use usually, but I don't have a cord dragging on me all the time. Now this thing is rated at 6 CFM airflow, at 875 degrees Fahrenheit air output. And they say it gets to that temperature from 0 to hot in 7 seconds. If anything, I think it happens quicker than that. My testing's been more around 5 seconds, to the point where I think it's really putting out the heat that it should be putting out. It has one setting on, you turn it on, you get it running, and that is it. So there aren't a lot of settings to fumble with, which is kind of nice and kind of not so much. We'll talk about that in a minute. It does have a safety on here, so you don't just pull the trigger. If you set it down on something, you're not worried about having it kick on when you don't want it to. And it has a ladder hook on there, so you can hook it onto the side of the ladder or hang it off some pipes, whatever you might be working around underneath the dash of a car or under a car while you're working. But the thing to me that is the big selling point is exactly what you see here right now. It's standing up. My standard heat gun that I use has to lay down all the time. I either have to hang it off of something, use a hook for it, and hang it up on something to keep it from burning anything while I'm working, or just really watch where I put it down. The Milwaukee cordless one, that thing stays where you put it. Find a nice flat surface to put it on, set it on there, and you're not worried about it. This thing is well balanced, especially with that 5 amp hour battery on there with most of the weight being at the bottom. It really stays where you put it. That is huge to me. When I'm working in a car, I don't have to worry about burning the carpet, burning other wires or plastic parts. That's going to be a big thing to me, that I can just set it down, keep doing what I'm doing till I'm ready to use it again. It does have an LED light on there, so if you're working under a dash doing some heat shrinking, you can use that to light your way a little bit. That's nice. You have one less thing to worry about holding a flashlight in your mouth or something like that while you're trying to work. Now, the nozzle on the end of here is a nice safety nozzle design with a smaller outlet than I might see on a lot of other heat guns. I kind of like that because I feel like it's going to be a little more focused for my finer jobs that I'm trying to do. And now with the nozzle on here, it's the same size as my Matco one. So the accessories for my Matco heat gun will fit onto the Milwaukee tool as well. So that's nice to see. Another point to make with this thing, somewhere where it could be really useful, keep it in your truck. If you're a construction worker, you're out on job sites, this thing could be a lifesaver. I had to get into my trailer the other day to get some tools out of storage that I had in there. Well, I'm in New England. My lock on my trailer was frozen up. It was filled up with water, it was iced up, happens all the time up here in the winter. It's a pretty common thing we have to deal with. This thing here is a lifesaver in a situation like that. If you had this in the truck and you had a frozen up lock trying to get onto a job site or into a building, this thing could really help you out. You don't have to break out the propane torch, you don't have to break out the lighter or the butane torch. You've got this thing. Throw a battery on it, heat that thing up, thaw it out, and you can get in there much easier. It really saved my butt this week. So, how loud is this thing? Well, I pulled out my decibel meter, I got about 2 feet away from the tool itself, and I fired it up. I registered 65.4 decibels out of this. I then set up my corded one, and I fired that up as well, and that came in at 65.2 decibels. So it's marginally louder than my corded one. Great. However, I did note that the cordless one is the slightest bit higher pitched than the corded version. Now, that's not necessarily an apples to apples thing. They're two different manufacturers, and the high pitch didn't really bother me until I fired up the corded one, and then I noted the difference. Then I was kind of like, I don't know that I like that higher pitch out of the Milwaukee. But I didn't think that until I compared it to something else. So I really feel like in the long run, that's not going to bother me at all. Now, the tool itself goes for $119. That is bare tool, no accessories whatsoever. You just get the tool. And that's how I picked it up because I already had the M18 line of tools. Now, if you want to pick it up in the kit form, you can get it with the tool, 5 amp hour battery, the charger that charges both the 12 volt and the 18 volt batteries, 2 accessory tips for it, and that goes for $239. Now, these prices are, of course, subject to change, blah, blah, blah. You might find a sale that's a little bit better price. That was Home Depot and Acme Tool pricing on these units. However, I was disappointed by the fact that when I bought the bare tool only, I didn't get any accessories. I don't have a deflector tip. I don't have a reducer tip. I didn't get any of that with this thing. For $119, that's a little tiny bit salty to me. So at that point, we might as well segue into what I really think about this thing. Overall, I am pretty darn impressed. It heats up very quickly. It has a nice operation. It's easy and comfortable to use. Being able to stand it up is a huge, huge deal to me. And overall, I'm really happy to cut the cord on the heat gun. So now, what do I not like about this tool? Well, let's get into that a little bit. Biggest thing to me right off the bat is the one setting, on. You pull down the safety lever, you pull back on the trigger, and you fire the thing up, and that's it. It gets hot. And great, that's what I expect out of a heat gun. And I really don't change the settings on my heat gun a lot, but there are times where I just want to warm something. I don't want to burn it, I don't want to get it super hot, and I might actually turn down the heat or the airflow on my heat gun. I can't do that with this cordless one. I'm just going to have to control that by how often I'm applying it, or maybe turning it off and on a few times. And that's a little bit annoying to me. I really would have liked to have seen an adjustable heat output on that. My Matco HG300 heat gun that I use has a dial on the back that adjusts heat output and 3 different airflow settings via the trigger on the bottom. And that's another point to make here. With my Matco heat gun, I have 3 different settings. I flip it to that, and that's it. I can hold it however I want to from any different point, and it will stay on. With the Milwaukee, I have to pull the trigger, and I have to continue to pull the trigger. There's no lock to keep it on. There's only a lock to keep me from turning it on. I really would have liked to have seen a trigger lock on there to keep it going. Have that safety so that it not only keeps you from kicking it on, but also keeps the trigger on once you get going. I realize that this is a safety thing. They don't want you burning the unit out or burning whatever you're working with, but that's the danger of a heat gun. You should be accepting and knowing that when you're using it. I feel like a few warning labels or maybe a little note on the trigger when you first get the thing might have made that okay to have a trigger lock on there. Now, the other thing I'm not a huge fan of is the price structure a little bit. For the $119 bare tool, since I already had the Milwaukee line of tools, that's not that bad to me. For the sheer convenience of standing it up and for cutting the cord on the heat gun, I'm good with that price. I really, really would have liked to have seen a few accessories. Just the 2 that come with the big kit come with it for the $119. It's a little bit salty to me to not come with those things for that price. Now, that said, you can go to Home Depot and you can pick up a set of, I think, 3 accessories that should fit right on here, since there's a pretty standard shield design on here, for like $9.95. So for another $10, you've got the accessories, but that also for $10, they could have thrown those in with the tool, in my opinion. Now, the $239 price tag, that's where I'm a little iffy on this. If you don't have a Milwaukee line of tools at all, if you just want a cordless heat gun, that's a fair bit salty in my opinion. Now, say back to my Matco heat gun that I have here. The new version of this, the HG300A, comes in a kit. It comes in a case, it comes with 5 accessories, a scraper, and I think 4 different heat tips on there. You've got all the adjustability that I mentioned before, and that's going for $99.95. So you're cheaper than the bare tool alone over here for a lot more bang for your buck in this package, if you're okay with having a cord. At the end, it really comes down to how much do you want to cut the cord? Do you want to save yourself a lot of trouble like I do, working in a cluttered shop? I don't want to have cords crisscrossing what I'm doing, especially when I'm under a dash in a car, being at the mercy of a cord that, oh, it came unplugged again. It's going to be really nice to get rid of that for me. Is that important to you? If it is, then this is a pretty great tool. If it isn't, I'm not quite sure that I would really recommend upgrading from the corded design to the cordless design. So, like I said, overall, I'm really impressed with this. For me, personally, wanting to cut the cord, cut down on clutter, and have it stand up, I cannot express enough how happy I am about that. I was almost worried when I ordered it that it was going to be top heavy, it was going to topple over all the time. Has not been a problem. So overall, I'm really impressed with this thing. What I can't speak to at this moment is battery life. Milwaukee's information in their manual, they say 40 cycles out of this thing. But they don't quantify what those cycles are. Is a cycle 30 seconds of on time? Is a cycle continuous runtime for 5 minutes? I don't know. So I can't say how long a battery is going to last on this. I will have more testing in the very near future as I'm doing a wiring job coming up here soon, and at that point I will give an update about this. I'm going to be reviewing another electrical tool from Milwaukee in the very near future. I'll probably slap in a little update about this with that review. You should see that coming down the line shortly. Alright folks, thanks for coming along with the ride. Thanks for checking this video out. Hope you found it informative. If you did, drop it a like or let me know in the comments down below. Do you have any questions about this thing? Are you going to cut the cord on your heat gun and pick one of these up? Let me know what you think. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel for more content like this every week. Thanks for coming around, folks. Have a good one.